Today we are starting our first session, and today, almost the whole day, we will dedicate for Afghanistan. And Afghanistan is a very important country for the greater Caspian region, but also for the whole world. And everybody now talking about Afghanistan. And there are, of course, a lot of difficulties in Afghanistan, but there are ways how to solve all of this. And today we invited our speakers, and the Afghanistan delegation led by Minister Mustafa Mastoor. He will give us highlight on the economic development of Afghanistan. He is the Minister of Economy. Also we have Sham Bathija, who was a former senior economic advisor to the President of Afghanistan, and Ambassador and Special Envoy of the former President of Afghanistan. We have on the scene Abdullah Khenjani, founder of Democratic Society think tank from Kabul. And this is a very important initiative. Thank you for coming. Agha Rezayee, member of the parliament. And Mr. Rezayee can tell us what is going on the legislation side and in the parliament. And also Zabihullah Ziarmal, first vice chairman of International Chamber of Commerce in Afghanistan. And here we have the commercial approach and commercial aspects. And, as I told, Afghanistan is very important for the greater Caspian region, because if it will not be sustainable economic development in Afghanistan, the whole greater Caspian region will be in danger. Because and on the other side, if everything will be fine in Afghanistan, then everything will be fine also in the greater Caspian region. And today now is the open session, open for press, open for questions after the session. And also I would like to introduce special guest, Mr. Badat, who is the former president of FIATA. He is not exactly from Afghanistan, he is from the neighboring country, and he is the greatest expert, the best expert in logistics, I think, in the world. He knows everything about logistics. That's why he will participate in this session, because we have here transportation, trading, investment, besides everything. But also he will participate in the other sessions today and tomorrow, and it will be more specified about the transit corridors from the greater Caspian region. Now I would like to give the floor to Minister Mastoor. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murad. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of the Caspian Week for bringing us all here. In Davos is always a very great experience for everyone, looking forward to mid to end of January every year to be here. And also gathering all of us from the Great Caspian region, and also the experts about Great Caspian region in this Caspian Week. It's a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to be part of the Afghan delegation and also part of this rich panel, colleagues from Afghanistan and also Mr. Badat. The topics which are picked for this Caspian Week, they are all very rich, and one wants to be a panelist in every panel, which I'm sure it's not possible. But thank you, Mr. Murad, for including us in many of these sessions and specifying and allocating today's sessions to Afghanistan. As Mr. Murad said, Afghanistan is known to everyone. I think we are almost 42 years in the headlines, and I'm sure many of you already know what are going on in that country. 42 years back, I was just a kid, and still conflict is going on. However, just recently there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we are all, particularly the regional countries, we are working together so that we reach to that light. Giving you some brief about economic outlook and some figures. The country, in spite of this size, the population is not that many. We have only 31.5 million people. However, the population pattern or the demographic pattern is very interesting. 50%, 50, or to be precise, 49% of our population is below 15 years of age. So that's something very interesting. While 77% of the population is below 30 years of age. These are the ones or the generations that they've been born during the conflict. So they need special attention. Our GDP is not very big. It is just about $20 billion US dollars. And the growth, GDP growth, in the last 18 years, it was volatile from -1% to 19%. Why it is changing very much? Our economy is greatly dependent to agriculture. And our agriculture, due to lack of infrastructure, it is heavily dependent to the rainfalls. So in the years that we have better rainfalls, the following year is a much better economic growth. Though, and this is why, as I said, that the infrastructure is lacking. However, thanks to all our partners in the region and beyond for their support to Afghanistan and the ODA that we received, but still we have a long way. Agriculture is only 21% of our GDP size. And as I mentioned, lack of infrastructure is one of the areas that we have to work. Industry is 24%, while the bigger sector is service sector, which is 52%. Our domestic revenue is very small. We just reached $2.5 billion a year. However, compared to 2016, it is a 25% jump. Though we have problems always you are getting from the news. The growth rate that we forecast for last year, it was only 4%. For 2020, we expect 5%. And with the perspectives of peace and stability in the country for 2024, we expect 8.4%. The Afghan market is small, but like many other markets in the region, it's full of opportunities. The only issue here is that how to find it and how to get connected to it. I mentioned earlier about the population. That is an asset for us, and that's what we are working, how to turn them to productive labor force. This market, despite of the issues related to the security, it is risky, but I'm sure that many investors, they like fields that they have attached risk because they are also having rewards. Our location is another opportunity for us, just between Central Asia and South Asia and beyond, and being part of the greater Caspian region. As I mentioned, industry needs to be grown. Agribusiness and services, they're all areas that we can invest. The unemployment rate is 24%, but one big shift from last 15 years is, 15 years back, we had unemployed people, but either with low literacy or totally illiterate. But now we have unemployed youth graduated from schools or universities, which could be turned to skilled labor force very quickly. The imports and exports is also very interesting. At this moment, our imports are 81% of our exports. The total size of our imports is about $7.5 billion. What it tells us? It tells us that the purchasing power for 7.5 billion of goods and services to be procured from outside is there. And there is another area to be looked at and to attract investment for. And it's not something very complex, what we import. In addition to electronics and machinery, the rest of those which we can produce easily inside, the opportunities are there. And later on, I will touch upon what we are doing in this front. But at the same time, we have local investors or local partners as well. At least we have two of them here that they are the pioneers and successful business people in their own businesses. What our local partners needs foreign investors to come and join with them to bring the know-how and the brand, but the capital is also not a big issue. So the risks that many investors sometimes they are afraid of to bring the capital and the attached risk to them. Agribusiness, mining, energy, construction material, services, IT, they are the main areas that we can attract investment. And when we are looking to the post-peace scenario, there are a number of other things that we could talk about. At this moment, or at least in the current government, in the last 5 years, they highly value the public-private dialogue. Almost every member of these certain chambers, they are in the policy discussions with the highest level of our officials. I can name High Economic Council, I can name the Committee of Council of Ministers for Economic Affairs, we can name private sector executive committee meetings, and the rest. Last year we jumped, the year before, we jumped on the Doing Business Indicators 10 ranks, and as I'm involved or tasked to improve it for 2020, I'm sure that we will do much better in 2020. So to sum up, one of our main policies to stimulate the growth is boosting domestic production, based on the reasons that I just mentioned to you, to not only recapture the domestic market, but also improve the exports. We've done lots of reforms. If there are interested colleagues, we can discuss it during the breaks as well. The infrastructure already built, legal reforms are already there, particularly on the private sector, as I mentioned. Among others, the public-private partnership legal framework is finalized. We are working on the post-peace economic scenarios, and our economy and region's economy may benefit from a political settlement with the Taliban, which we will have at least one session just later. So we will discuss peace more in the later sessions. And I'm really interested to talk with you on the economic related issues to the country. And we welcome innovative ideas. And I'm here only for that one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Mastoor. Now I would like to give the floor to Sham Bathija. Due to his extensive and exclusive career in Afghanistan government for the past years, he can tell us what was before, what it is now, and what of the future, I think. Please.
Thank you, Murad. Assalamu alaikum, good morning and bonjour. It's just a pleasure to see you and the Caspian Week and your commitment not only to, for example, for this forum, but beyond that. You are actually encouraging that the Caspian region should be much, much bigger, and rightly so, and has an interest. So bravo and fantastic, I'm glad.
Thank you.
Minister Mastoor, thank you very much. You gave a very good analytical overview of the situation. Naturally, Afghanistan has come a long way. It's not a country which was just created yesterday. The history has seen it. But I will just say, and once among this is Chatham House rules, you know, we say whatever we say.
This session is open.
Okay, so anybody can talk in a very
They can refer after.
clear manner. Well, that's all right.
Please.
The interesting thing is, I recall way back since I was writing our first least developed country report, which is a flagship report of the United Nations. I wrote a chapter on Afghanistan. This I'm talking about a little earlier years, where when I was looking for statistics, couldn't find it. Not much available. Finally, when I got something out of it, for example, the telephones, I got approximately 85,000 telephones in the entire country. That was, I quoted, and I said, Afghanistan is not bad after all, we have 85,000 telephones. But Mr. Mastoor will correct me, today we are talking about more than 25 million phones, for example. If this small indicator is somehow moving from point A to point B, I think we have moved quite far, quite far. And the other things, from my childhood, I used to take a bus from Kandahar, where I was born, as a student, to come to Kabul. We used to take a 6 p.m. bus, arrive the next day, traveling the whole night at 2 p.m. in the afternoon to arrive in Kabul, which is only 250 miles. The same thing happens, I took it myself, 3.5 hours. So if this is again a little indicator of movements in the development field, I have seen it, and I think we all can cherish on that. You touched upon all the infrastructure and so on. We have the biggest road network. For example, Afghanistan today, to be honest with you, from my past experience being in Kabul, being in the UN, being in everywhere else, has almost every single document, research, plans at hand. All one has to do is implement it. And of course, the implements, it's possible to go very far in that part. And the donors and our neighbors, you know, they help us all along in that way. But I'll be very honest with you. In psychology, one has to say, we have to reconcile ourselves with. That is the first thing we have to do it. Once we reconcile it, believe me or not, we can go very far. And Mr. Mastoor said we have the youngest generation, for example, the youth available to produce anything. The GDP I quoted, I remember at one point way back in early 2000s, 14%, 15%. And people would just look at me and said, am I right in my mind to say something like that? I said, well, I have to argue back. And I said, well, in any country which is a conflict country, the next day when the things move faster, they move very fast. And 14% is not a big deal to have it. So we have seen those days as well. But of course, ups and downs is always there. We have, I need not to say that natural resources, you can call it enormous amount of any kind. Mr. Mastoor will comment more on that later on. But opportunities are there. It's just we have to come up with the proper thinking, agreements, and reconciliation ourselves. And now that the reconciliation is coming up with the other sides, hopefully we will move forward. And I think that Afghanistan has a potential. It's the open door policy. I hope someday everybody will go to visit that country. The people you meet, the kind of energies they have, the young people and the youth, it's an enormous amount. Earlier, we were just having a cup of coffee in the morning. We were having a chat with some colleagues, friends, ladies, and they were asking, what is the woman's situation in that? I said, okay, I'm not the authority to say what I say, but I have seen it with my own eyes. Things have moved from, I don't know, we had 100,000 girls going to school to today 5 million girls. That itself is an achievement. I very much recall that we were sitting one day in the president's office. According to the Afghan constitution, 30% of the seats in the parliament are reserved for the women. 30%, which is in the region was not possible at that point. So we were just having a chat, how are you going to fill this 30%? It's not an easy task to. The president made a very remarkably jokingly, as he is, he said, Karzai I'm referring to, he said, well, go find anybody on the street, a good-looking woman, put him on the seat. And everybody will say, well, they will not be able to respond back. He said, give them 2 years. After 2 years, they will be the most outspoken people, parliamentarians and so on, which they are today. You see Afghan women in the parliament, you will all agree with me, they're so right to the point, and they're so making the difference and so on. So, in other words, the potential is there, not only in the human capacity side, but also in the natural resources, in the business world, and so on. Not to give you one example, in the US, when the refugees crisis came in, a lot of Afghans left almost like every country, right and left. In US, when they arrived, they have literally controlled one industry. Literally, just one by one, so they had all the energy to do that. So we will, the Afghanistan, I suppose Mr. Mastoor will agree with me, is open for business. It's a private sector. Institutions are so protected. The Constitution guarantees them. And of course, the unity government is fully behind it and so on. So we will do that. We are ready to, if there's any question, remarks, we can now talk about it. Just to take you a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sham. Thank you for this speech, very positive and optimistic. And for the next year, we definitely need the women from Afghanistan to represent the country here. And we should work on this. Thank you. And now, from the parliament, yes, at least from the parliament. Yes, and now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Badat, who's a former president of FIATA. FIATA is an international forwarders international organization worldwide, and he is the best expert in logistics and transportation, and he will share his views what could be done in Afghanistan on the logistics side and also on the business side, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Murad. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Murad, my compliments. It's a fantastic setup you've got over here. This is my first opportunity for FIATA to be here, and I guess you've called us because Afghanistan is a landlocked country, and therefore logistics and transport becomes a critical issue in Afghanistan. So, as I said, I'm delighted to be here. FIATA itself, ladies and gentlemen, is the world's largest transport and logistics organization. It represents about, it's got membership from about 130 countries, 50,000 companies, and it's also in the forefront in policy making in transport and logistics. Some years ago, we had given a statement out of FIATA, and the statement read that the biggest non-tariff barrier to the growth of global trade is the lack of logistics connectivity in many parts of the world. And I think this is very true for Afghanistan, as the minister himself just mentioned. We need to see the global dollar go on the streets, on the ground level in Afghanistan. And that is going to ensure prosperity and openness for the region. And I think that is going to allow more assimilation into the global economy. Transport itself, logistics, is a critical area, especially for economies in the Caspian region. Caspian region, many countries are the last frontier of development. And I think if the global voice can find its place over there, I think there is a lot that will be coming out of there. Connectivity itself in the region is, I think, westbound into Istanbul, Turkey, Black Sea, going that way. And there is also a southern thrust which needs to be developed, which is going down from the Caspian region into Afghanistan and into Pakistan. The ports are there. There are large ports. They can offer an opportunity. This region needs to get together. The countries need to get together, and they need to create the critical mass for volumes to be channeled through these areas. There is a lot of opportunity in this particular area. FIATA itself encourages economies to develop their logistics. We've spent some time in the last couple of years working with Turkmenistan, as well as other players in the region, in trying to get them into membership of FIATA, to work within the policy-making organization of the world, so that we can have investment coming from global companies into the region. We would like, of course, the road transport industry, for some reason in Afghanistan, is pretty developed. So your people know trucking very well, you know. So whatever else we can do to enhance that from trucking to end-to-end logistics, we'd be happy to work with the countries and with the region, and to promote more in the region. So I think in the coming days you'll be hearing a lot more about the Caspian region as far as transport and logistics is concerned, because Mr. Murad, you have plugged me into more than a few places, so I'll have to repeat some of the things and some of the things that we're talking about now. But we'll be happy to connect and speak off the course also, and the sidelines also. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you need to discuss anything. But of course, we will be talking about it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Badat. Thank you for your speech. Now we are moving to the business. And I'm giving the floor to Zabihullah Ziarmal, first Vice Chairman, International Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Islamic Republic of Afghanistan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murad. Your Excellency, Mr. Mustafa Mastoor, Minister of Economy of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, honorable panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. I would like to thank Mr. Murad for organizing such an incredible event, and thanks for inviting us and having the opportunity of talking about my country, Afghanistan. I'm Zabihullah Ziarmal, and I'm here as the International Chamber of Commerce Executive Board member and the Vice President of the ICC in Afghanistan. And at the same time, I'm the CEO and the founder of Safi Group International, one of the private companies which has been established back in 2005 in Afghanistan, currently operating in multiple sectors within Afghanistan and internationally. I've pointed out all my points, and I would like to take you guys into a very short journey of my country, from the past to the present and to the future. From 1952 to 1963, Afghanistan's Prime Minister Mohammad Dawood Khan had solicited military and economic assistance from both the United States and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, believing that without rapid growth, Afghanistan would become severely politically fragmented. During the Cold War, Afghanistan had faced a lot of challenges in terms of up and downs of the economy, and the USSR and the United States were involved in struggling and supporting different parties that they were fighting against each other within the country. The country received at that time almost 50% of its foreign aid from the Soviet Union, and another 30% from the United States. It brought in electricity, dams, and irrigation, and a young parliament which was trying out a fledgling democracy. By 1967, the country had 1,200 miles of paved roads and a 25% increase in the power output around the country. As inconceivable as it's today, war-torn Afghanistan was once an essential stop to the backpacker route across Asia. In the 1970s, tourism was a small, but nevertheless brought significant receipts to the country's general revenue. After the Soviet has left Afghanistan after the Soviet has entered Afghanistan in 1979, new official aid commitments from the West ceased, and war has destroyed most of the economy and created a lot of issues and put the state into a fragile state. In fighting during the civil war years, destroyed what infrastructure and industry remained in the country, particularly in the capital, Kabul. Exhausted by this second round of violence, which included widespread predation and looting by local commanders, the Afghan population initially welcomed the draconian security provided by the Taliban. However, efforts to build critical economic infrastructure or the state institutions that support the formal private sector were not made. Talking about the prison, if I'm saying about the prison, not about today's, but I mean from 2001 until now, that the world has come to Afghanistan and Afghanistan has become focus for the entire globe. The international intervention that toppled the Taliban in late 2001 was followed by the notable economic development. Country's economic infrastructure and entrepreneurship landscape has unmatched resilience and unique characteristics to survive, revive, and grow in very hostile and violent market conditions. At the advent of 21st century, most of the Afghan economy's output comes from agriculture, which still is one of the significant sectors, as His Excellency Minister Mastoor has mentioned. Industry is still largely at its infant stage, although the government is giving a lot of attention to the manufacturing and to the industries. But still, the competition and specifically the dumping policies and practices from the neighbor countries is putting our infant industries into challenging situation. Industries is still largely at its infant stage based on the resilient small-scale handicraft activities, notably rock weaving and modest exploitation of minerals and resources. Services are largely underdeveloped, although this is one of the major sectors into the country, which is counting to up to 52% of the Afghanistan GDP. The trade deficit improved from minus 36.7% of the GDP in 2015 to minus 35 in 2017 and 18, with an increase in exports and slower growth for imports and weaker domestic demand, based on the data from the Central Statistic Organization of Afghanistan. The deficit narrowed further over 2017 and 2018 to $6.95 billion, with exports rising to $832 million for the year 2018, up from $596 million a year before, which is growing faster than imports. The more contemporary organized private sector emerged through the cooperation between Afghan businesses and international community, which shared a mutual interest in improving the business condition. If we focus on the future as a very brief, as an Afghan who was born in Afghanistan, who have educated in Afghanistan, and I created the business back in 2005, and still we are investing in the country, still we're creating jobs and paying taxes for the government revenues. I see the future of Afghanistan as a regional economic power, which is in the crossroads of the Central Asia and the South Asia, with a capacity of transmitting 20 to 30 million goods per annum from the Central Asia to the South Asia, where the population size and the market size exists in the South Asia. Simply putting that, the resilience and 4 decades marred with the conflict had deprived the country and its people from everything, and there is no more space for any conflict in the country. Fortunately, the peace process, the peace negotiations has been started, and the Afghan business community and the Afghan nation is hoping for the conclusion of the peace deal, which has to happen between the Afghan government, the United States of America, and the Taliban. The only way is now toward the development and growth. However, it is not a simple and conventional journey. The role of a well-functioning and growing economy cannot be underestimated in contributing to the stability of a country like Afghanistan, for the continued prosperity and stability of a nation. As the security situation is likely to remain unstable over the short term, it would be ideal for the private sector if the state would be a return on investment risk and lay the foundation for economic development by investing in the hardest infrastructure to support and leg the domestic markets and attempt to secure after access to the neighboring countries and to the seaports through the Pakistan and through the Turkmenistan, within the Caspian, Azerbaijan, Georgia, to the Black Sea, and furthermore to the Europe. In order to do this, the state will need to increase its revenues, both by the tax and non-tax sources. Public-private partnership is one of the possibility viable alternative, which in Afghanistan, the public-private partnership law has been passed and few projects has been considered and it has been put into the private sector involvement in terms of financing within the power generation, electricity, as well as in transportation. Despite of multiple trade and investment opportunities existing within the Central Asia and the greater Caspian region countries, in transit, trade, energy, power, mining, agriculture, and many other potential sectors, still the level of cross-border investment between this region countries is minimal, and the regional infrastructure projects such as railways, free trade and economic zones, terminals, airports, pipelines, as well as policies and legal frameworks, tax and customs regulations are not sufficient to further facilitate bilateral and multilateral trade and investment within the Caspian region, the Central Asian, and in Afghanistan. The informal sector in the country also plays a strong role in terms of the poverty reduction through the employing and servicing markets at the bottom of the pyramid. We have been involved on all levels of economic development, initiatives which was taken by the government as well as the international community, whether it is lobbying efforts to policymakers, investment initiatives and economic participation, and any other initiatives. I have been parts of the efforts to bring in the international organizations such as the International Chamber of Commerce in Afghanistan that creates a global platform for private sector of different countries to come to Afghanistan and to open dialogues and discussions about the policy reforms, legal framework reforms, and taking initiatives in terms of attracting foreign direct investments in the country, creating jobs, creating businesses, and further paying taxes to the government and creating job opportunities for the people. Moving a step forward, recently we have approached the World Trade Center associations in New York, and we have been granted the license in order to establish and operate the World Trade Center in Kabul. We are currently working around the clock to establish the World Trade Center in Kabul in order to provide a tremendous boost to the domestic and regional investments, trade, and industry by connecting Afghanistan markets to the regional markets and further to the global markets. While Afghanistan's few large enterprises are currently relatively marginal to employment, they do still play an important role in generating government tax and revenue, attracting foreign direct investments, providing certain critical services such as telecommunication. As it was mentioned before, that 22 million people are currently using this cell phone and telecommunication services in the country, creating more FDI within the greenfield sectors, providing certain critical services, introducing technology and management standards, and as well as catalyzing the establishment of smaller enterprises for a long-term development and growth in the country. Thank you very much, and I would be looking forward to interact with the audience after the session for any specific question in terms of the topics and the points which I have discussed about Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ziarmal, for this detailed information about Afghanistan. Now I think a lot of people started to think how they're going to do business there, and thank you. Now I would like to pass the microphone to Mr. Rezayee, who is a member of the parliament, of Afghanistan. We know that a lot of women now there, 30%, and you are representing majority in the parliament, 70%. And we would like to know which work is being done in the parliament to improve the legislation and also to integrate Afghanistan in the economic community of the world and the Greater Caspian region, of course. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thanks, Mr. Murad, Their Excellency, Mr. Mastoor, and other members and panels, audience. My name is Khan Agha Rezayee. I am Parliament member from Kabul. It's great to be here in Caspian Sea to discuss about Afghanistan, the problems in Afghanistan. Peoples are facing problems, and the future view for the people and the country. And I'm sure these discussions will open a new door to the people of the country and to the investors to invest in Afghanistan, and that to help the people who have suffered almost from 4 decades between wars and conflict. As my friends described, a lot of good points happened in Afghanistan. I also have some. I don't have digits, but I have some. I'm going to go on from the other sides. Afghanistan, since 2001, has passed a lot of steps, which we had presidential elections passed, and recently we had a presidential election, and we're waiting for the results to come up. The new government will come up, inshallah. Hopefully we will have the government, we will move toward the stability to have the government, and we're waiting for the result. We had 3 parliamentary elections. The new parliament came up last year, and the new generation, almost 60% of the parliament are new member. The new members are new generation. They're all well educated, and they're all from every provinces came up. Now we. As a new member and as a young generation, I have a good hope for the future of Afghanistan, that we will, the parliament is working next shoulder by shoulder with the other branches to pass the laws for the investors. So for me, I have some points that here to describe the real problem with the peoples are suffering. Still, there's a lot of progress, but still challenges are facing the people of Afghanistan. In 2018, the economy was slow, 1.8%, and still peoples are suffering to losing their jobs, and what we were expecting, the income and the GDP was unfortunately the government couldn't reach to collect the taxes, and now the economy of the country is supposed to increase what we forecast since the peace process is in talk. We have the peace process. Hopefully, it will settle. Since 6 months, it's going on, and if it's settled, we will have we will count on the future of Afghanistan. There's an opportunity, but still the people and the investors have concern if the NATO and the international forces move from Afghanistan, then the country will go back to war. This is a question for the people. I hope we will have the NATO and international countries to stay next to the people of Afghanistan to move forward. As it has been the case for a long time, peoples peoples was facing violence and trading between securities. Between the month of January and June, there was about 800 civilians. The civilians are losing their lives, and still we're facing some problems. But hopefully within next years, due to as my colleagues mentioned, if the peace process will move forward, we will forecast that the country will move. Now we are the country. If we get the peace, we have opportunity to invest in the country. The parliament is working on the tax law, and it's under process. The tax law is going to come up maybe next month, and foreign investment foreign investment law is under process. As a parliament member, we promised to the investors that we are working on the laws that to pave the way for the investor in Afghanistan to move forward, to get out from the conflict we're facing right now, and move forward toward the stability and peace. I'm also here next to my colleagues. If there was any questions for me, I will be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rezayee, for this speech and this information. And now we have the last speaker, Abdullah Khenjani, who is the founder of Democratic Think Tank Society. And can you tell us a little bit about this initiative and what you are doing to improve the life in Afghanistan?
Sure. First of all, it worth to reiterate the words of thanking you, Murad, and your team for bringing everyone here. And thank you so much for listening to us. I think nobody thanked the audience for listening about Afghanistan, and I would like to take this opportunity and thank everyone for being here today. Sure. Thank you, sir. Secondly, I think as a last speaker before the lunch, there is also a responsibility. I acknowledge that responsibility, specifically if you would be an obstacle behind Great Turkmeni Palau and the audience. I would not keep everyone so wait for that delicious lunch. I promise that. Thirdly, it's a great honor to be with distinguished panelists. As Mr. Murad mentioned, I found it recently. My background is journalism. I have been doing journalism in past 15 years in Afghanistan. I was leading the second largest station in the country, and recently I shifted from journalism to think tank, which are so connected with each other. And the reason that we started, this business of think tanks in Afghanistan is new, and we would like to have the platforms to say our stories regardless of who's gonna produce knowledge about my country. And that's why we feel that it's a social responsibility of everyone in the region to come up with new ideas, to tell their stories, to represent themselves in a way that we have been, if I may say, what Edward said, Orientalism way of looking toward region. So in order to be a little bit interesting for audiences, I will avoid the technical small issues which is happening at the economy of Afghanistan at the moment. Actually, I'm not also expert on that, if I may humbly extend my disclaimer at the beginning. I'm so much into the politics, into the peace, insurgency, and radicalism in the region, but I will try to be honest and fair and independent in my analysis. So some of the data that I have collected in a part of my presentation, that would be international data. I have collected some of them from independent think tanks in Kabul, and specifically I used the data of World Bank. So it doesn't mean if you would find a little bit difference from the data that has been represented specifically by His Excellency Minister Mastoor, that would be the difference because of the institutions, not the difference because of the realities on the ground. So let me quickly touch upon what's happening in our region. I divided my presentation today into two parts. One is the challenges, the realistic way of representing the challenges in Afghanistan, and the second part is the opportunities which exist for everyone. And I think I'm the only unbiased person among these people to ask everybody to come to Afghanistan and invest there, because I'm neither the government and nor the business guy. So I would try to do that job. Before going to the context of Afghanistan, it's important to remind everyone that our region is one of the most complicated and transforming region in past two decades, if I may say. At least in our understanding in Afghanistan, 4 key things is happening. The first thing, Asia and our region is changing from an idea of economy to one of the key centers of the economy in the world, especially with the development in China and India and the region beyond. So there are a lot of initiatives there. As you might know, BRI is going to happen soon there. That's one of the mega big projects, which of course related to Afghanistan and the region. CPEC is also there. CPEC is important for us not only because of its economic potential, but its security potential. We believe that an economic integration in the region will bring us peace, stability, and connectivity more in the region. So I would not elaborate into that because we have Chinese friends they can talk about, and we have our Pakistani brother who could talk about CPEC. So the second thing, this region is also the most conflicting region. I mean, considering the fact that United States presence in Afghanistan, their problems with rivalry with China, Russia, United States, Iran, United States, Pakistan, China. I don't know, I can name it many others, so that's also important. You cannot find this kind of situation in another part of the world. The third thing, it's also important to remember that our region is the safe havens for around 25 domestic, regional, and international terrorist networks that would definitely somehow affect the development of the region. If I may call it, if I may name some of them, from Al-Qaeda to ISIS, specifically after the ISIS lost its territory in Syria and Iraq, till the groups like ATIM in our region, the groups like Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, we have groups like Taliban, we have TTP, the Pakistan Taliban movement that's also there. So it's important to remember that this region is not only facing with some political challenges, but also it is a safe haven for more than 25 years. And it would help us also to take this platform and say that contrary to conventional understanding from Afghanistan, it's not only Afghans that are fighting against Afghans, which is part of the reality, but it is also the front line. We are fighting the international terrorists, we are fighting the regional terrorists, we are fighting from Chechenis that they are fighting there till the Indian Daesh from, I don't know, Pakistani TTP, from Taliban, from other regional ATIM groups that we are fighting on behalf of everyone. And I really hope that there should be a realization of that immense sacrifices that the Afghans are giving on daily basis. The last thing about the region is I think this region is also the most imbalanced region, the most diverse and the most disconnected region in the world. I think you cannot find these 3 characteristics on all. I mean, we have different type of political system in our region. One political party country like China to a theocracy like Iran to another, if I may be allowed to say, a military dictatorship in Pakistan and a fragile democracy in Afghanistan. I have been so biased about Afghanistan, I'll give everyone to judge about it. So this region is also so diverse, so imbalanced, and so disconnected with each other. And I really don't know. Having said all this, contrary to conventional understanding, to the common understanding from Afghanistan, there is a changes. There is, the ground is changing itself under our feet, and that changes is after 18 years, there is for the first time a regional consensus, even amongst the biggest these competing powers for stability and security in Afghanistan with the presence of the United States in Afghanistan. And I think that's a big changes in the region. If I may just briefly elaborate into that, it was 2007 when the United States started to discuss a long-term partnership, security partnership, which we call it in Afghanistan BSA, Bilateral Security Agreement. And that has been a concerning point for all the countries in the region. But after 10 years now in 2019, likely we do see that the region has a consensus for keeping Afghanistan stabilized, and that's very important. And the key reason is everybody see a benefit in the stability of Afghanistan, and that's why the region has the memory of state failure in Afghanistan, which has been a breeding ground for the international terrorists such as Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, and that memory still exists, and we are very hopeful considering the fact that Afghan conflict has its own regional and international dynamics that would help us to reach towards the stability in the country. So that was my short introduction of the what's happening in the region, and then I will quickly go to what Minister is laughing that was not short and brief. Oh no, that was the first. It started now actually. According to the reports, especially by the international organizations such as World Bank, Afghanistan is facing with a major economic headwinds, if I may say it, because the growth has been slowing to 1.8% in 2018. And that was the reason was intensifying security and severe drought that has been mentioned by His Excellency Minister, because Afghanistan, part of our economy relies on agriculture, and drought will affect, and I will give a number later on. So business and investment confidence also deteriorated significantly in Afghanistan, and unfortunately, and the key reason was because of the uncertainty created around the U.S. military withdrawal from Afghanistan, especially this discourse of drawdown and leaving Afghanistan by the international community. And the third reason for such a situation is the ongoing peace talks with the Taliban. Nobody knows what's going to happen, and we will elaborate later on about that. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know where. Oh, I have it back. So you can just go and see this chart. This I copied from World Bank. The source is World Bank. That will give you an idea how our economy is going on at the moment there. And then if anyone would be interested, I can share the link and I can share this presentation with them. So the second phase that I would like to talk was this opportunity in Afghanistan. I think Afghanistan itself faces some challenges, but also some opportunities. Despite we have been known as a landlocked country, but we are trying to represent ourselves as a land bridge in past few years. And actually that has been a formal policy of the Afghan government, and likely there is also an international encouragement and investment when it comes to integrating Afghanistan into region economically. And that's because of the reason that the United States, as the big donors of the Afghanistan, has paid enough money for Afghans and Afghan development in Afghanistan, and now they are trying to connect Afghanistan in the region in order to create a domestic potential for generating revenues there. Afghanistan also wanted to integrate into global value chains, want to be part of the global supply and demand. Donor partners also want that, but Afghanistan is also, would like to seek not only economic integration as itself as an economic concept, but also as a security and political concept too that could bring more stability and security in the region, and we would try our best to be the bridge not only for economy, for transportation, railways, energy, and these kind of things, but also for peace, stability, and democracy, and a peaceful future for all the region. That's why I just brought those platforms about the Pakistan, which was part of the initiative. We have APTA with Pakistan. We are part of WTO. We are part of WCO, TIR. We are SARC, CAREC, Chabahar, Lapis, and you all know about it. TOPI, I think that's another key project that we would discuss it by details. I wouldn't jump into that at the moment. That's very important. I brought 3 other key examples, the cooperation between Turkmenistan in TAP, TOPI, and that would be, I would definitely love to have experts from the region to discuss it, because we don't want to have only our ideas about that. That would worth to be discussed well by a group of people from different countries. The challenges, unfortunately, the region is not politically ready for connectivity and trade. If I may say, an example, Pakistan has always denied Afghanistan access to India, which was one of the biggest regional market and traditionally the largest buyer of Afghanistan export. But of course, Afghanistan itself has its problem. We had a troubling relation with Pakistan, and also Afghanistan blocked Pakistan from Central Asia, and that has been, to be fair, that has been like a mutual way of troubling relationship between 2-3 countries. And so the way forwards, I suggest at least 6 points: promote a strong awareness among the countries in the regions, and that's why, Mr. Murad, thank you for bringing everyone here. Thank you for putting Afghanistan into this important topic, and we really appreciate that. And that's important to take this kind of initiatives out of Davos. We should bring it to the Caspian region. I really hope that His Excellency Minister consider the next meeting in Kabul somehow, to host us there with a group of people to discuss that, and we'd love to enjoy Afghani Qabli Palau. That's also a good thing.
Thank you. Great idea.
Thank you.
Let's discuss.
And need for visible and evidence-based research, because some of our projects has happened very politically and ambitiously, and that's the practicality hasn't been considered well. And those 3 other points that I'm sure everybody is tired of this long conversation. And thank you so much again. I would love to engage in any conversation later on if you would like to talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khenjani. Now we're going to the questions from the audience. Please name yourself.
My name's Matthew Bryza. I'm with the Atlantic Council. I was a long-time U.S. diplomat and worked a lot on Caspian logistics and pipelines. So when I reflect on everything just said, it's clear this is a very early moment for these big dreams of projects that get beyond politics and create connectivity. But that's what Davos is all about. We're supposed to think this way. Nonetheless, you talked about being practical at the end. So maybe in terms of logistics, what do you foresee as the most likely sectors where there could be logistics flows from Afghanistan to the Caspian and westward to complement the cargo traffic that's now coming from west to east? We've got the Baku-Tbilisi-Kars Railway that moves goods from west or from east to west, but often it's difficult to load those trains with valuable cargoes to go back east. So how do you see a balance of those trade flows emerging?
Thank you, sir. Well, you see, the problem is whenever there is a conflict zone, the conflict or the disputes are a big hangover on commercial flows. So first of all, there has to be a deliberate attempt in reducing the conflict areas. And that normally happens in most areas where there is development which takes place of conflict. Now, if that happens, it's political. I'm not qualified to speak on that, nor do I know much about that, but I'm speaking from a commercial point of view. But when you move away from conflict zone, as we see things happening today, the way it's fanning out today, a lot of areas are opening up and conflicts are reducing, and there is a possibility that commerce takes over the role of conflict as the primary driver of initiatives. And I think that should be the reason for most of us to engage. Now, if that happens, obviously you see traffic moving north-south. You can do that. We have been promoting that from the panel of FIATA, that there should be connectivity in the world. As I said when I spoke, that there should be regional connectivity, global connectivity, and some of the initiatives which are coming up today on a global level do pronounce that need very much. So that is happening. On a national level, I wear my FIATA hat over here, so I don't speak about that. But if I go back and speak about what's happening in the region, Pakistan is pushing to develop regional connect, to connect its ports and its wharfs with the markets in the Caspian region, in the Central Asian region. So we would obviously like to see that. There will be 2 steps forward and 1 step backward, and 3 forward and 2 backward. That's going to happen. That is normal when you're coming into a resolution area. But of course, if you do look at this, it is extremely important that we develop these things. Transport and logistics, and you've raised this issue, is the most important precursor of trade and prosperity. And trade brings prosperity for every region it goes to. So therefore, transport and logistics should be the primary driver in this area. My colleague over here has said he's from the International Chamber of Commerce. Well, in Pakistan, I am also from the Executive Committee of the International Chamber of Commerce, and I chair the TIR Commission there also. So we are pushing for regional connectivity in that area. So to answer your question, I think there has to be a vertical connect. There are different means of transport. Railway is not very well established over there because of the terrain. You know, the terrain is there. But there is a lot of work being done in creating corridors over there, and I believe we are going to be speaking about that later on. And my colleague from Houston, Ray, is here. He's also working on a couple of things. I think, there is going to be talk on that. So railways may not be the only one, but road transport and all these things are definitely there. And the ports in the south do provide an opportunity to take that forward. Does it answer some of you?
Thank you so much. Actually, what you have mentioned, which is creating challenges for the movement of the cargoes within Afghanistan to the South Asia and to the Central Asia and through the greater Caspian to the Europe. Indeed, if you look at the bigger picture of the railway master plans in this region, we can clearly see that the only missing components is in Afghanistan. Apart from, we don't have any proper infrastructure of the railways in order to create proper connectivity between the Central Asia and the South Asia in order to achieve that capacity of 20 to 30 million tons of cargo transshipment through Afghanistan from the Central Asia to the South Asia. And this is one of the issues which I can call it lack of hard infrastructure. And apart from that one, the road conditions in Afghanistan is not in a very it's done in a good condition, plus the airports, the customs, borders, and many more. Apart from that one, there is a lack of soft infrastructure as well. Afghanistan as a country, which is a landlocked country, one of the landlocked countries in Asia, we are dependent for the connectivity to our neighboring countries in order to reach the seaports. Through the Pakistan and through the Turkmenistan and the Caspian and further to the Black Sea and to Europe. But this will cause us, in order to be dependent, more on the cross-border infrastructure of our neighbor countries. And apart from that one, the legal frameworks of the countries are different. So we have to be dependent on the legal frameworks, the policies and the procedures are different. And apart from that one, on the top of all these, the political ties is another concern, that sometimes if a political relation between the two countries in the region is not in a positive way, it is automatically and immediately affecting the movement of the cargoes across the borders. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, please.
My name is Vitaly Kozachenko. I'm Managing Director of Fortier Law in Geneva and Advisory Board Member of the Caspian Arbitration Society. We have heard about the legal reforms, the new tax law, and the World Trade Center in Kabul. And I was wondering whether there are any plans or existing projects to establish an independent and impartial court similar to the DIFC court in Dubai.
Thank you. As I mentioned before, I think this question is more concerned to me. As I mentioned before, that like 4 years back, we have brought International Chamber of Commerce into Afghanistan, and the arbitration court of the ICC is one of the largest in the world. That majority of the commercial disputes is being settled through the International Chamber of Commerce Court of Arbitration. And recently, as I mentioned, that we could secure the license of the World Trade Center. And through the World Trade Center platform, this is going to be a new opportunity in order to create regional dialogues and regional discussions in order to create a policy reforms, not to the Afghanistan level as a national level, but to the regional level as well. Because one of the major challenges which is lacking in this region is there is a lack of a joint and a collaborative regional integration, policies and legal frameworks within the Central Asia and the Greater Caspian that is causing lack of connectivity and avoiding the countries to be connected. Apart from that one, there is a lack of financing and inclusive financing in order to finance the regional infrastructure projects as well. That on the hard side is going to be creating connectivity. But through the ICC, the arbitration is there. Although we are taking the cases, we're not doing the settlement of the disputes in the country because we're not allowed to do that one. But we can register that one and pass by to the International Court of Arbitration in Paris. And then over there, it would be settled and it could be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, please. Okay, then I have one question. Let's assume the peacemaking process will be successfully accomplished. What will be, after that, the main obstacle for sustainable economic development of Afghanistan? And what are your ideas how to remove this obstacle?
Okay, however, we may have another session on peace and its opportunities and also the challenges. But I don't know whether what exactly you think that would be the obstacles, economic obstacles, post-peace. But I think the location of Afghanistan, the proximity to the Great Caspian region, I think it will help everyone, not only us, but we may not have that much thought about the obstacles, what you think. But one of the obstacles coming for the trade between the countries, however, the next session, part of it will be about that one, is the different systems and standards we are using, each of us, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the Central Asian countries, completely different systems that we are using in our normal businesses, including the economic affairs as well. But if you would like to be specific, any specific obstacles you are thinking about, I'm not sure if we are looking much more on the ease of business, ease of relations, rather than the obstacles.
Okay, thank you. And I think one of the solutions in the regional integration, like it all. Yes. Okay, now I think this session is closed, and thank you for the distinguished speakers for very interesting speeches and very detailed information provided.